What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 25 of season 5. My name is Jim Iacovone, and I'm joined by the one and only Jack Smith, boy wonder Travis Ballinghoff. If you're not watching or listening live, where's that coming from? Do you guys hear that?
Yeah.
I had YouTube in my other browser. Sorry.
Oh my god! I swear if that was me.
I was like, what the hell?
That's
All
not
right,
funny.
so
Don't do that.
I'm gonna have to edit that or not edit that, but yeah, make sure you're subscribed on and follow and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. If you are watching live, make sure to say hello in the comments. If you like the topics that we're talking about, let us know. Chime in. Let's interact. Let's have a conversation. And if you've not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, we're trying to hit 200 subscribers. If we can do it by the end of this episode, maybe we'll give away a Flyers jersey or two. If we can hit 180, 185, we'll give away some t-shirts. We have some stuff. We want to give it away. But we need to hit a couple goals first. We need your guys' help. So share our links. Put them wherever you get your Flyers information. Give us a hand. Help us out with that. Also, if you want to check out our site, maybe buy some merch, listen to our show, you can head over to hwhockey.net and find all of our social media links in one place over at hoo.be/HWHockey. All right, boys. Flyer season has come and gone. The exit interviews were done. When was it? On Friday? And then again Monday with Tortorella and Briere on Monday. NHL playoffs have started. Once again, the Flyers are not in it. Lots to get to there. This is the second night. The first night I was about as exciting as you could get. It's going to be a fun playoffs, but we got a fun show ahead. We'll get some Claude Giroux talk in there maybe towards the end. Trav's going to defend his boy. We were kind of shit talking him last week. It was supposed to be a positive thing too. So we'll get to all that. But so exit interviews. A lot of stuff in here, good and some bad. And I want to ask you guys first. Was there anything in these interviews? I'm pulling them back up here that maybe caught you off guard that you weren't expecting to hear? Anything that stood out to you in a surprising or maybe even a negative way in these player exit interviews? We could start with Trav first.
As far as surprising, I mean, Kevin Hayes kind of came out and said the writing's on the wall. So what we all assume is that he'll be traded around the draft. It's a little bit more certain if that's even possible. I think we were all pretty confident that was going to happen, or at least is going to happen, I should say. I don't know if you'd call that surprising. I'm trying to think surprising. I don't know. Not surprising. JVR's was kind of cool. It was kind of like a goodbye to JVR. He talked about some of his favorite memories and the Cup run and some of his older teammates, Kartsy and Chris Pronger. That was cool. I enjoyed that. I don't know. Surprising. Nothing really sticks out.
Okay.
It's surprising in a negative sense is definitely not something that I picked up on. I guess some of the players being so blunt with what we kind of already knew was a bit surprising, but I didn't learn anything that I was like, oh, I'm surprised. I feel like we knew the information. It was more of a formality, typically with the players. I agree with JVR though. I liked his. I liked how he brought up about Kartsy taking him to playoff or baseball games and whatnot. But I was surprised that he was upset that he wasn't traded at the trade deadline. Yeah. No, I wasn't surprised at all. Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. So I guess to a point, I was surprised a little bit about some of the candidness from these guys. Because typically we get, the hockey responses, all the cliche lines, yada, yada. Things didn't go our way this year. We'll work hard and we'll be back at it next year. But I'm thinking in terms like JVR, he came out and said, yeah, he was a little disappointed that he wasn't traded for a cup run. And Cam Atkinson, I was surprised to hear him.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Talk about, the medical staff. And I know Tortorella somewhat tried to not so much cover it up, but maybe smooth things over a little bit on Monday when he said, doctors even in Columbus were misdiagnosing him, which doesn't make me feel better. Because all he did was confirm that the doctors in Philadelphia were misdiagnosed. I don't care about Columbus, So that was the thing. He did say things are improving on the medical team front. They're not where they need to be, but things are improving, which I guess is encouraging because the Flyers aren't where they need to be, but they are improving. So we have to kind of accept that hopefully, things are going in the right direction there. But I was surprised that, Torts even said the same thing. He wished he didn't go down that road in talking about those kinds of things. But I kind of appreciated the honesty from Atkinson because it was something that we've been kind of talking about on this show for the last couple of years. And I think, Jack, we've kind of felt bad talking about it because it sounds like we're shit talking guys like Jim McCrossan, but based off the things that we've heard, there's been major issues with the Flyers medical staff going back for, who knows how long. So I'm glad Atkinson kind of came out. And I think the first step in fixing stuff is coming out and being honest about it. So I was surprised. And I was also kind of a little bit glad that he said it. It kind of confirmed things for me,
It's funny. It's something I kind of put aside. Something I was like, yeah, that was a problem. I remember all that.
Mm-hmm.
We saw how many men lost to games lost based on guys, whatever. And it was like through the roof. And it's like, man, I knew it was bad before. And now that I actually see these numbers, it's like, holy cow, they're definitely doing something wrong here. And then you hit the whole Ryan Ellis thing, and it's like, oh, you can tell right off the bat he didn't like the medical staff. And it's like, this is really getting brought up just way too much. Like, I've never heard of another team having these kind of issues. And I almost thought we were past it. So to see Atkinson say it the way he did was like, I know it's a little bit tricky when you're talking about your back and neck and all, all that, and how connected to his arm in a way and whatever. But it still was just like, we still got a ways to go. It was a reminder that we got a ways to go. For the most part, I think they've improved. But yeah, things were really bad here for a while. It's just an organizational thing. And yeah, that's one thing I think we all agree on is like, no, the veterans and the ones who are on the way out are definitely not holding back or hearing stuff that we all knew, but it's definitely nothing we didn't already hear at some point.
The Cam Atkinson thing was interesting to me because we heard so many different things while he was injured on these different injuries. People are reporting this, other people are reporting that. I'm hearing things, and nothing ever lined up correctly, which kind of makes you think now. I didn't think it at the time, but okay, that's probably the result of all the misdiagnosis. People were saying different things to different media members, and that's where that confusion came in. So I thought about that today, and I was like, wow, that all makes sense now. But it also made me wonder, was Ryan Ellis ever misdiagnosed? Because kind of the same thing. I heard different things. I remember Anthony DeMarco reported something different than I heard. And then I remember Ant Sanfilippo reporting something different than both of us heard. And that kind of got me thinking too. I wonder if there's something there. The whole Ryan Ellis situation, maybe that was misdiagnosed at the beginning.
Yeah. And in my opinion, and I could be wrong because I'm no expert in this stuff, but if you're a professional sports franchise, you can afford the best care for your players. I mean, your players are the investment. If you're not taking care of your investment, these, $1 million a year players, what the hell are you doing? And I understand, you want to do you want to do right by people who maybe have been in the organization for a long time. But when it comes to people's health, man, like you got to have a conversation and make a decision. And, the Flyers, I think, have done that. And, maybe they get this fixed going forward because it really couldn't have gotten much worse. So let me ask you guys this real quick. With the players did kind of seem somewhat candid during their exit interviews, as far as honesty. Do you think Tortorella has rubbed off on them in this way? Is that a fair question to ask, or is it just the guys being the guys, you think, Jack?
I think it could be a little bit of both. Like, I don't typically remember certain players just letting it fly, but I think Tortorella, and it kind of goes with his exit interview, had a goal among a lot of what he wanted to do, but the main goal was, setting a standard, is the way he likes to say it. He doesn't like the word culture. He's setting a standard, and he got asked a lot of good questions. And I think in setting that standard, it definitely rubbed people the wrong way, but it also let, along with management now, with Briere particularly, certain players know where their role is with this team. And I think that opens up with how candid he is, where I agree with you. They felt they could be as candid, and this is players across the board, but also combined with where certain players are in their career, like Hayes and JVR, for example. I mean, what do they got to lose at this point? But ultimately, I think that's the culture that we have right now, where it's almost like a wild west scenario, because you don't know who's staying and who's going. You don't know who the GM. Briere's an interim. You don't know what this front office is going to do and whatnot. So, what do you got to lose at this point? I think everything's out there for the most part, and anything's game. And yeah, and the long-winded answer, I think, yeah, but it's also because what has happened to this franchise over the last couple of seasons as well, and the disarray in the front office.
Yeah. Trav, what do you think?
I didn't really put any stock into it. I kind of feel like exit interviews are always kind of guys let their guard down a little bit.
Okay.
When you got guys like JVR and Hayes who probably aren't going to be here, might not just give a crap.
Okay.
I do think it's a reflection on where they think they stand with the organization too. I think guys that know that they're on the outside looking in are definitely going to care less. I think Provorov felt that way last year, and you saw how candid he was. And, so I think things can change year to year. I don't think it's just the player's personality. I think every situation is unique.
So you bring up Ivan Provorov, and he probably had, in my opinion, or at least I was looking forward to his exit interview, maybe more than any other player on the team. And I wanted to get your guys' perspective on, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it or if you just skimmed through his responses, but watching him, it kind of seemed like what he was saying didn't match how he looked or potentially felt. And I'm just assuming, of course, because I don't know Ivan Provorov, and this, all I can do is basically assume here, but he was saying all the right things. Like, if you didn't think that he was going to be traded, you would think, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. And maybe he still does. But I just had the vibe that he was like, I'll answer this the way I'm supposed to answer it so that I don't hear any extra BS and I can get out of here, without anybody really noticing, kind of thing, over the summer. So I'm interested to hear your guys' perspective, and we could start with Trav on this one.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think he just went in there trying to start some shit. He wanted to pick a fight that day. I truly believe that. He wanted to get something off his chest towards the media. This year, yeah, I mean, I've kind of always felt that way about Provorov. Like, he's always just kind of stayed in the middle of, like, sometimes guys like I remember Shane Gostisbehere used to be like very honest to the media. He would say whatever was on his mind. And I always liked that. But then you got guys like Claude Giroux, who's just pucks in deep. We got to play better. We didn't do good enough today. I always thought Provorov was kind of in the middle. He said the right things. He didn't give you too much, but he gave you enough. And I felt that was kind of the way things went on Friday in exit interviews. Said the right things. Was pretty honest. He wasn't very encouraged when Danny came out and said rebuild. He came in during a rebuild. That's very true with the Hextall thing. Other than that, I mean, he probably was the most interesting interview. Just because I think he's kind of the guy we all want to hear from. Though I think I'm putting it at 99% he's gone this offseason. But yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Sorry, I was moving my desk up over here. If I was distracting you, my bad. My chair is broke, and if I lean back, I'm definitely going to end up on my back. So
I think it's the background that throws us off.
sorry.
You disappear and reappear so often.
Yeah, Jack, what do you think? I kind of agree with Trav. What do you think there?
Oh, I definitely agree. For me, it's always been with Provorov. Like, he'll do what does he want to be here? Like, you talk to some people, like I thought he was definitely gone. Like going back to Pride Night and a little bit after, I just thought he wanted. I just still do think he would much prefer out of here. We've heard things well before this season how I'll be in Vegas or Toronto by like he just thought he was out of here. I felt that for so long, and then you saw how last season ended, how that you knew this season was going to go, and then Pride Night you throw that in there. It's everything. I just expect him to be gone, and he's sitting there saying the right things, but I just it's almost like a mute point, and it's a complete moot point right there. Like I'm just like this is just a formality. Yeah, like he's going to say the right things, because he knows he might be back. He might not get traded, and he might help him get traded. But I just don't think this guy wants to be here. And there's other people who feel differently, and I really want to feel that optimistic. I loved it when he was drafted. He did go through a rebuild already, so I'm understanding in a respect that wasn't really a rebuild, but I get his point. And I'm just like, it just comes down to I don't know if this guy wants to be here. I don't know if any of this matters.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there was a question here. I forget who posed it, so I apologize. Their name is not in the transcript here. So the question was, we've talked to Torts, and when your name came up, he's always said how much he respects your approach, your hard-nosed play. He said that you guys have butted heads a little bit this season, and with the season over, where do you see your relationship with Coach Tortorella? And Provorov starts his response the same way that a couple of other players started their response when asked about the relationship with Tortorella. I believe Kevin Hayes gave this answer, and maybe even Wade Allison gave this answer. So Provorov starts it like this: I'm still the player, and he's still the coach, And so I thought that was interesting, because when you hear multiple people use the same line, they're hearing it from someone.
Yeah.
Right. And so I assume that maybe they got into these back and forths, and
that's always Torts' response. Right.
He uses that as his trump card. At the end of the day, I'm the coach, you're the player, I win. You know what I mean? So Provorov continues here. Obviously, there's things you're not going to agree upon, but if both people can put an effort to come to a solution, I think you can. And that's kind of how our year went. We're going to continue to keep getting on the same page. Obviously, there's going to be things that come up that we probably are not going to agree on. But like I said, his job is to coach the best way he can, and my job is to play the best way I can. And I'll tell you what, just reading it like that is like, okay, well, at least there is an understanding, because Tortorella's right. You can disagree all you want. End of the day, if the coach needs you to do this, you got to do it. I understand it's a little bit different in the NHL when you're making millions of dollars. You can kind of just say it, go F yourself. I'm still going to get paid $6 million a year. I don't need to listen to your shit, but at face value, it sounds great. Provorov's play towards the end of the year kind of tailed off. So maybe that was kind of him giving the finger and saying, hey, I'm out of here.
I'm glad, I'm going to cut you off real quick. I'm glad Jack brought it up, because I actually planned on bringing it up, but you distracted me.
Right.
But I wonder if kind of the whole pride thing makes him like he realizes he has to be perfect in the media now. He can't afford to slip up and get into arguments and have little I don't even know what you would call that. Whatever Travis, when he went at Jordan last summer.
It's funny that you said that, because when Jim was saying, like, that's a line that you keep hearing with I'm the player, he's the coach. I almost thought Jim was going to say that's something that the organization told him to say to the media.
It's possible, yeah.
If he just was in a spot, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. What do I say? We'll say this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you might have been going that direction, just based on the situation with Provorov.
No, it's a good point. They definitely do kind of teach these guys what to do in press conferences and crap.
It could very well be. Yeah, if you feel like you need to say something negative about Torts, here's the line. Say the line. Yeah, that's a good one there. So so here's something I want to talk about a little bit. So some of the players were asked about Briere and what they think about Danny Briere. Provorov's response didn't match some of the other guys. So I'm going to read his response here when asked if he had a chance to talk about Danny Briere and how long he thinks a rebuild can take. So Provorov response, yeah, he's pretty open about it being the rebuild. And it's kind of in that rebuild stage. We did talk about it, but there was no real set years or how long it's going to take. All that was said is what they're going to do it the proper way. And I believe he will. So we all know that Jim likes to read into things, right? So I'm going to tell you guys how I am. So I choose my words pretty carefully. I typically tend to think before I speak so that I'm understood, right? I want people to understand the words that I'm saying because I mean them. So when I see Provorov say something like, I think they are going to do it the right way, I believe they will.
Here we go.
He's part of the team. Who's they? He's supposed to say we're going to do it. He's part of it. Is he not?
I thought the same thing when I first read that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like,
so
he said they.
Yeah. So I get that there's two ways, like, because he could just be talking. Maybe he's not as conscious, yada, yada. But
Talking about they is in the front office.
exactly. Right. Right. But I think I still would have, if I considered myself part of the team and part of the rebuild, I think I still would have said we are going to figure it out because I'm part of the solution. I'm part of the rebuild. He could have.
He's a goner.
Yeah,
he's a goner. It's that simple.
He is, right?
It's that simple.
What can we get for him? That's what we should be talking about.
So, I mean, I very well could be reading too much into that. That's what I do. I think it's fun. And yeah, a lot of the times people say what they mean, and that's all. I just don't want anything to slip by that, people, they're trying to tell you something straight to your face and it's up to you to see if you're listening or not, hear what you want to hear kind of thing. Whereas I kind of just try to take things as people say them, which sometimes gets me in trouble, because people don't always mean what they say kind of thing.
Oh, thank the Lord.
What?
Phillies were getting no hit, top of the eighth, but they just got one.
Unbelievable. What a joke.
You guys see my hat tonight? Go
Wow,
Phils, baby.
Big Phillies guy. Where's your Yankees hat?
I used to have one when I was younger. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It's an Italian thing. They're my AL team.
One of them guys.
All right.
Who's your Western Conference hockey team?
I don't have one. I did actually.
You like the jersey?
I think last week we were talking about
the Matthews.
It's a blank. I wish.
So last week we were talking about how I've never owned another team's memorabilia. That's a lie, actually, because when I was little, I had a San Jose Sharks sweatshirt.
Wow.
But I didn't have a choice. Like I don't know. I think I said I liked it, and there you go. But yeah,
the only other sports teams memorabilia I had was when I played like Little League sports, and they put you on a team.
Oh, so you
I
guys
have the Sharks. I have pretty much anybody but the team that I liked. I played for.
We did that too, and then one year, like in middle school, they changed it, and we were college teams. They claimed that like we used to argue about what team was better. For some reason, they thought that was like a big deal. So they switched. They switched us to college teams.
Jim, I'll say this for AL team. My favorite team that I played for was the Ducks because of the movie.
Oh,
there you go.
There's my AL. There's my West team.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, let's move along here a little bit. So on the flip side, Carter Hart was asked about Danny Briere, and I love Hart's answer. I think you guys are going to like this one too. I don't know if you saw it. So Carter Hart answers. Oh, you were there. Oh, I forgot to use some of the clips for the show. Damn it. Okay. Just talking with him, Danny Briere. Even before he was in this position now as our general manager, he was a hell of a player, had a hell of an NHL career, and he's just a smart hockey man. So before I go on, right away, there's respect for Briere, because he was a hell of a player, had an outstanding career, and is seen as a smart guy. So right away, there's respect. All right. This is what players, at least Carter Hart, this is the kind of person they respect. They need to be a hockey guy. Okay. Chuck Fletcher, I don't think Fletcher ever played in the NHL, right? Like, so right away, there's lack of respect, right? Because he doesn't know what you're going through, kind of thing. So then let me finish here. The way he carries himself around the team and tries to be involved with the guys and talk to all the guys on a personal level, I think we really appreciate that. He's going to be a good fit for us. Dude, so I just want to go to Trav real quick here because, Trav, what did we hear about Chuck Fletcher the last year or so with the players?
I heard a lot of things about Chuck Fletcher. In short, everyone couldn't stand him.
Yeah, he didn't talk to the players, did he?
I don't know about that. I know a lot of guys did not like him. I thought that's where you're going with that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but I remember, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I thought I remembered specifically Carter Hart's name came up without, I don't mean to put you on the spot here. So if I am, just say, hey, Jim, you put me on the spot. But we were having a conversation about Hart, and somehow it came up that, he's not a big fan of Fletcher specifically, and he never talks to the players, kind of thing. So when I heard this about Briere, specifically Hart, I was like, wow, like that's a really important thing to him, for the GM to actually talk to his players, kind of thing, I think that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Jack, what did you think about that response?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I mean, I'm not going to pin all my hopes on it, but it's good because a lot of people were like, and us included, love Briere. He was a great player. He's going to be a great GM. It's like, all right, pump your brakes. That's not how that works. But to see these little things early, because it is very early in his tenure, it's still in the interim tag, for God's sake. To see these little things, and also going to the Tortorella, which we'll touch on later, some of the conversations they've had. This is exactly what I want to hear. I mean, more so some of that other team building stuff, but talking to your players, going that extra mile when you technically don't have to. That's exactly what I want to see. He is that involved. He is that proud to be in the position he is, not only the logo, but the title. And he's going to take it seriously, and he's really going to give it all he's got. And from what I'm seeing, he's going to do it his way. And if this is one of the differences from the last regime and probably the regime before it, that's fantastic, because this organization has always flourished when it felt like a family. And I think we got away from that with the last two regimes, and it's good to see us reel that back in. So it's a little thing, but it's something I definitely want to see, and it could down the road be a big thing.
I think that's a great point by you, Jack. That's a step to getting back there, because they're all in it together. I mean, we all know what it's like to work for someone that we don't like. It just makes everything harder, right? Even all the little things. Just going to work sucks when you have a boss or whoever your the hell's the
employer.
word? Yeah, whoever your employer is. It just sucks that you got to work for this guy. Whereas when you like the guy, and he makes a point to go out of his way to say hi to you and, get to know you, yada, yada, you don't even need a raise. You just like where you work. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so that could be a thing that maybe one day attracts players to want to play here again. Hey, that's a good organization to be with. They take care of their players. It's like a family again over there, yada, yada, instead of this corporate shithole that it is now. No, seriously though, right? Yep. I mean, Trav, what do you think when you hear that kind of stuff? That's good stuff, right?
Yeah, Jack said it perfectly.
You did.
Not sure I have too much to add. I think you guys pretty much nailed it on the head.
Sure.
If they can get this thing handled on the right track, and Danny Briere, confident guy, young guy, has played in the league recently, has played against some of the guys in the league currently, has played with some of the guys in the league currently, I think it only helps.
I would agree. Totally. Yeah. So let's move on a little bit here. So a couple of the guys went out of their way specifically Travis Konechny and Sean Couturier, Scott Law, and they went out of their way to talk about some of the players on the Flyers' young core. And I just put out an article about the Flyers' new young core. You can go check it out on hwhockey.net. Shameless plug. The same players were mentioned. And I believe Tippett was mentioned first almost every time, which outstanding year for Owen Tippett. And for as many times as I'm right, which is very, very often, there are times when I'm not. And as Jack knows, I like to admit those times when they come. And I wouldn't say that I was someone who talked shit on Owen Tippett before the season, but over the offseason, end of last year, we heard, oh, he's working out with a shooting specialist. And I remember being all negative, Nancy. Oh, this guy's known for his shot. He needs to work with a shooting specialist, yada, yada. Well, guess what, Jim? It worked because the kid scored, 27 goals this season? That's pretty damn good. Career high 27 goals, 49 assists for Owen Tippett. Clear breakout year. I mean, oozes confidence. This guy's he's going to be a staple in this Flyers roster for years and years to come. Could not have been more wrong, and I'm glad I was. The other guy, and we can kind of talk about these two guys in a second, was Noah Cates. Didn't care for him at all. I was actually very down on Noah Cates. I went back and looked up old tweets of mine because I know that I was pretty shitty about this kid. I'm going to turn the Flyers on so I can watch Noah Cates this year. Whoop-de-doo. The dude's up. He's a legitimate Selke Trophy candidate. Will he win? Likely no. But just that his name is being mentioned as a 24-year-old rookie, man, couldn't have been more wrong about Noah Cates. And I'm glad. I'm very glad that we're due for guys like that. One's a reclamation project. The other guy, came out of college, first NHL season, has a great year. Jack, I want to ask you first, I mentioned guys like Konechny and Couturier were talking about Tippett and Cates. Does that mean anything to you when guys like that talk about these young kids? And, do you believe in them as part of the Flyers core going forward?
I definitely believe in Tipper. As that they were all saying Tipper.
Yep.
Absolutely. Like I told you before, he's been my favorite player this season, like just to watch. And to add that to what we had and what we hope we can get, is like, you're going to need these kind of players. And I kind of was with you. Like, whenever there's an issue with a player and they bring in a specialist, it's like, all right, we're in trouble now. Because it's not like it was in addition to his game. That kind of was his game. So to hear he needs a specialist made me a little nervous too. But I also I wrote it off, because Florida is a very good organization that usually has to make waves with not spending a ton of money. So drafting was more their forte. And when they were out on this guy and they gave him up, Fletcher for whatever, it was like, yeah, they're done with him. They know how to get good players and win. If he's a cast off, what are the odds he's anything here? So to see him have the season he had, flirt with 30 the way he did, given the power play time, he'd have definitely hit it. It's like, wow, okay. So it means it's we're not crazy to hear the players say that, the players who he could potentially take some of their spots. He filled in for Konechny pretty well. It's like, I'm not saying he's replacing anybody. I'm just saying, like, we're not the only ones noticing it. We're not being overly positive, that we're given a lot to be positive about. We're seeing what everybody is seeing. And for the first time in a while, we got a nice reason to be positive about this young core going forward, potentially new core.
I think what gets me the most about these two players specifically is I'm not sure that we had expectations for them. Whereas, think about the prospects coming up like Konechny, Provorov, Sanheim, Morgan Frost. We couldn't wait for these guys to get here, and we couldn't wait for them to perform. And when they didn't perform, it was, we were very quick to be like, what the hell's going on with these guys, kind of thing. Whereas I'm not going to speak for you guys, but I had no expectations whatsoever for Noah Cates. Really no expectations for Owen Tippett. I know he was a 10th overall pick in 2017, but hadn't done much. He's basically a reclamation project that they got for Claude Giroux. Know he's got a big shot, but does he know how to use it? Yada, yada. I had no expectations. So it made watching them kind of easy, if that makes sense, where, I could just watch them and not be like, compared to like Morgan Frost. Oh, this kid's known for yada, yada. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. This is his third year in the league. Not seeing it. Does that make sense, Trev?
Yeah, completely. I've talked about it a handful of times on the show. I liked Cates coming into the year. Same with Tippett, but with Tippett, at the time of the trade, I was like, kind of like Jack. Like I really wasn't sure what he was. I used to compare him to Daniel Sprong, who really wasn't good until this year as well, which is kind of funny. Right. But coming into the year and kind of how the way Tippett and really that whole line of Cates, Frost, and Tippett performed at the end of last season, I was like, well, we might have something with these two guys. And I'm not saying I had expectations of 25 goals, 50 points. Like I didn't say anything like that, but it was like, okay, well, I think this guy might be able to be a good player for us. But now, like a season later, I have a lot of expectations for Tippett. Just the shot, the speed, the amount of scoring chances this guy develops on a nightly basis. Why can't he score 40 goals? As long as he keeps continuing to get better and he keeps working in the offseason, I don't think that's really that crazy to say. 40 goals is a lot. You're pretty much a superstar if you're scoring 40, but I think he has that in him. With Catesy, going back to exit interview day, Coots kind of talked about how he wants to play with Noah Cates. I thought that was really cool. That's like the ultimate compliment from a guy like Sean Couturier, who there's some comparisons there as well, but guy who's been around and had a really successful career say he wants to play with you. That's got to be really cool for a young player. We'll see what happens if he's at center or wing next year. I think I'd like to see him at center still. But I mean, I don't think the Flyers are going to be good next year, so I'm not opposed to trying a bunch of different things. But yeah, that's my thoughts on those two.
That's the only thing I was going to add to what you said, Travis. Like, we're probably not going to be good next year, so we could really have some fun with some of these line combinations. So I would like to see some experimenting, to say the least.
So throughout the year, mostly towards the end, there were people on Twitter that were comparing, I think, Cates to Couturier at some point. And I would say, whoa, like pump the brakes there a little bit. Like we don't need to do that. Like Couturier won a Selke. It's maybe a little bit disrespectful to compare a rookie to Sean Couturier. And Travis Konechny comes right out and says it, doesn't he? He gave an answer here. Catesy, it's just really impressive what he was able to do. I bring him up last because I played with him and I had an opportunity to play like half my games with him and just see what he can do. For him to remind me that much of Sean Couturier in his first season is really, really impressive. So that's high praise right there, man. That's the Flyers' leading scorer, leading goal scorer, 30 goal scorer, Travis Konechny, with high praise for Noah Cates. Fifth round pick, correct?
It was late. It was definitely late, yeah. 5th
round pick, 24-year-old Noah Cates being compared to Sean. The Flyers were friggin' due for a guy like this.
So like we got something out of Hextall, huh?
Something, yeah. I mean, dude, here's the thing. Like, he can pick goalies and he can pick late. If he could pick 5th round picks, Oscar Lindblom was good for a year or two. Noah Cates. I feel like there's one more that's not coming to mind right now, but yeah, just crazy. If only he could have hit on the second overall pick and whenever the hell Jay O'Brien went.
There's plenty of guys.
Yeah. So I mean, those are just two of our, the new young core here. I'm going off this beautiful article that I wrote, one of the longest certainly that I've written of late. Morgan Frost, guys. I want to talk about Morgan Frost because I'm looking at his stats here. 41 points in his final 59 games of the season. His first 2 months of the year had just 5 points, right? It's crazy to think about. 5 points in first 2 months. And I can't really remember that far back, but I'm sure we were all, oh my God, Morgan Frost, like there's no way they can bring him back, yada, yada. We heard he was making plays in spurts, just the points weren't coming yet. And all of a sudden he's scoring, 4 points against Arizona 1 week, 4 points Arizona again the next week. All of a sudden he's finishing 41 points in 59 games. I think over an 82 game stretch. What is that? About 60 points. Hey, that's pretty solid second line center production right there from Morgan Frost. Finished with 19 goals, almost a 20 goal scorer. Before the season, I had said if Morgan Frost can hit 40 points, that would be a solid step. And I think he finished with 44. I got the stats right here. I don't know why I'm guessing. Yeah, 46 points for Morgan Frost this year. That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Jack, I'll ask you first on this one. Morgan Frost, can you pencil him in to your lineup yet for next season?
I mean, considering all the massive talent we have, it's tough to, do I dare say pen? Remember those first 2 months, he scored like 3 points in the first 2 games. Yeah. It was like he had a 2-goal game, 1 empty netter, and then like an assist, and then shut off until, Christmas. But, it's great. It's what we want to see. We can finally put this conversation to bed. I don't think you can look at this season and think he's not an NHL player, and the Flyers need as many NHL players as they can get. What I love about Tortorella is everybody's going to compete no matter who you are. I love that. However, I'm going to use pen. I'm going to pen him in. He's somewhere on this roster going into next season, game 1. And I don't think he moves up or down unless the only way he'll be out is if through injury.
Yeah. That's fair. Trav, where are you at with old Frosty?
I've been saying it for months. I'm all in on the guy.
Love it.
Pencil him in. What are you talking about? 45 points. He was the leading scorer the last couple months of the season. We're talking about maybe penciling him into the lineup. So you go back to the beginning of the year, right? He has that dominant first game of the season against the Devils, right? And then, he's playing all right. Points aren't really coming, but Tortorella goes and sends him a message, right? He goes and puts him on the 4th line with Delorier and McEwen. And they have some good games, some not so good games. He ends up getting scratched in his hometown of Toronto. Kind of like Travis Sanheim in Calgary, and you think Kevin Hayes against his former team, the New York Rangers. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that's someone trying to send a very, very specific message. Mm-hmm. But that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, so Morgan Frost gets back in the lineup and gets a little bit more ice time. He's playing with Wade Allison and some other guys, and he starts to play a little bit better. And then the Arizona Coyotes absolutely lights him on fire. And ever since then, he's been a pretty good player. There was a little lull in there about 3/4 of the way through the season. But, I mean, even on Austin Matthews and Nathan McKinnon, they have slumps every now and then. I'm not saying he's going to be them guys, but they're hockey players. It happens. Pencil them into the lineup. Pencil them high into the lineup, James.
So here's my thing. So all year long, I was like, yeah, I still don't feel confident penciling Frost into the lineup yet. Like, where is he? Is he a 3rd C? Like, if he's 3rd C, I want a little bit more defense out of my 3C. Like, Noah Cates is my perfect 3C. He's going to put up 40 points, but he's going to give you, great defense. Mm-hmm. He can shut down the other team's top lines, give your top 2 centermen a break, and go out and beat up on some of these lesser lines. That's my prototypical 3C. So if all Morgan Frost was a 3C, was a 3C, then, I'm not buying. But if he's going to score at a second line center rate, I shall pencil him in to the 2C for next season. I still can't believe he's only, let me just double check. I think he's only still just 23 years old. Let me just make sure he's not 24. God forbid he's a year older. Some of these other guys we're talking about, Cates and Tippett, they're 24 already. Let's look at Frost. Morgan Frost, 23 years old, turns 24 on May 14th.
And you wanted to get rid of him for nothing.
It's insane. Well, you're right. You're right. And if you guys have listened to past episodes, or am I talking about Nolan Patrick? I can't remember, but I think there was a point where I was like, you know what, get rid of this guy, just get him off the team. I'm pretty sure that was Patrick.
Yeah.
But yeah, Morgan Frost hadn't played a full NHL season until this year, his age 22 to 23 season. 23 season. And just, wow, shame on me, because that's a kid still. You know, he hadn't played a full season in the NHL. I'm going to give up on him. Come on, Jim. What are you doing? But 46 points in 81 games in his first full NHL season, almost a 20-goal scorer. You would assume that he would only improve from here on out, especially under John Tortorella, who keeps sort of, dangling the carrot. Every time Frost catches up to it, he kind of pushes it out a little further, which I think we've heard Frost talk about a little bit. Like every time he gets better, Torts is kind of raising the bar. Okay, you're here. Now we need you here. And hopefully that keeps working with him, because the talent is there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm now a believer in Morgan Frost.
Wow.
Yeah, I
what
think
a great day. It's about time.
April 18th, 2023.
Put it in the record book.
Jim across the picket line.
Yes, I'm there.
Man, early in the episode, you said you're rarely wrong, but whew,
yeah, I got
start writing them down. Start checking it off.
You look like Keanu Reeves dodging bullets over this.
So far, I'm 0 for 3. I'm Tippett, I missed. Cates, I missed. Frost. I'm just going down my list here. All right.
Our entire future.
Typical hockey boomer.
So here's one. So I'm going to finish strong here.
Oh, God.
Joel Farabee is part of this core. He is the youngest of the 4 players mentioned so far, right? We all know, started out the season rough, had the neck surgery from off-season workout. Not off to a great start in his first offseason under John Tortorella, and caught a lot of shit for that because he never really caught back up until maybe 3/4 of the way through the season. I think he actually started out somewhat hot, surprisingly. But this is a kid who was supposed to miss at least the first month of the season, didn't miss a game all year, which I think says something about his compete, his will to play. He wants to be out there. To me, it just, it's about impressions too, right? That stuff kind of matters. Like he could have just as easily sat out the first month, but he knows, hey, first year under a new coach, I got to get my ass out there. That stuff means something. So, goes out, and for the year that he had, I mean, if you're on Twitter, you would have think that he had just a terrible year. It's, and maybe for the standards, see expectations, right? Maybe for the standards that we are holding Farabee to, first round pick, yada, yada, 39 points in 82 games is not very good. However, coming off of that neck surgery which only 2 other players in the NHL have ever had, in Tyler Johnson and Jack Eichel, Joel Farabee was able to set new career highs, not just in assists, my friends, but points as well. Now, I know this is his first full NHL season. He's before this year, he was yet to play over 63 games in a season, but finished strong. He was, I think, benched in that game against Calgary, played like 3 minutes or something, and then kind of got his shit together from there. Jack, Joel Farabee, where do you kind of stand with him? Go ahead, just answer. I don't want to. Where's Joel Farabee stand with you?
He stands kind of where he stood last year. I mean,
Okay.
I kind of gave him a pass because of the surgery. I think most fans kind of did. Now, you kind of say something like that in your head, and as the season rolls along, you can't help but let doubt kind of creep in. But when you kind of like take a step back and look at it all now that the season's over, you're like, look, you know what you walked into the season with, not just the surgery, but a brand new coach, complete disarray at the upper rings of the organization, and he finished strong. I'll take it. It could have been a lot worse considering.
I would absolutely agree. And I think this is a massive piece. I think maybe an even bigger piece than Owen Tippett, than Morgan Frost, than Noah Cates is Joel Farabee. Now, call me crazy, call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Such an Italian.
I think Joel Farabee could be the next captain of the Philadelphia Flyers.
Wow.
And I think this season shows you why he maybe could be or even should be. He persevered, right? Life kind of sent, handed him some shitty cards, with that whole neck thing. Like I said, he could have rolled over, missed the first month of the season. Hell, he could have missed 2 months. Took his time coming back. We're not making the playoffs this year. What am I going to rush? I'll get back when I get back. No, he didn't. He came back and played full 82 games. He got shit because he wasn't scoring, right? But I think he even got in 2 fights this year, right? So he's not afraid of.
Love that.
Right. Was it smart? No, maybe not the smartest thing, but he's got a set of nuts.
Yep.
Joel Farabee. And, I'm not comparing him to Mike Richards, but a guy that will do the things that maybe you would expect of guys like Delorier and whoever else, Nick Seeler. I can respect a guy like that because it's not his job per se to do that, but he'll do it if needed. I think he's got a lot of leadership qualities, guys. And, I know I kind of go to one extreme to the other extreme with players because it's fun. But I'm curious, Jack. What do you? So actually, Trav, I think I got to ask Trav this one. Joel Farabee, Trav, what do you think?
I'm right there with you. I think this guy's a huge building piece. You mentioned the surgery and Eichel and Tyler Johnson and these guys who have had this surgery, who have it takes a while to get your feet back under you. And you think he had it in the off season, so he didn't really have time to work out. He's too busy rehabbing this stupid injury. He's going to be a monster this year or this next upcoming season. He's going to be in the gym every day, busting his ass. He wants to come back. He knows he didn't put up the points that maybe were expected. He scored 20 goals a couple years ago. He didn't hit that this year. He didn't hit that last year either. I think this guy has superstar potential. I think he's a huge building block for the future of the Flyers.
The only thing I'll add to that is a lot of players face adversity like he did this year when it came out that he wasn't happy from his agent and the coach was like, it's the first I've heard of that. And he kind of had to respond. He could have shelled up and just kind of finished the season quietly. I think he played better from that point. And that's good to see.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's a great point. I want to kind of move on to our last player here because we are about 53 minutes into the episode and we still got to talk about playoffs. The last player as part of this core, boys and girls, who came up at the end of the year and all he did was score 7 points in eight games with the Flyers. Mr. Tyson Foerster, drafted back in 2020. I can't talk about this kid enough. I'm not gonna go crazy pumping him up because it was only 8 games, right? And you guys already know how I feel, so I'm not just going to repeat myself. But what I think is interesting about Tyson Foerster is, I'll pose it like this. Did he make players like Cam Atkinson or even Travis Konechny potentially expendable by coming up and doing what he did at the end of the year? Scored 2 goals tonight so far, last time I checked, in the first game of the playoffs for Lehigh Valley. And they were both – the first goal was absolute filth. The second one was pretty nice as well. But Trev, does Tyson Foerster have a spot on this roster next season? And if he does it mean one of Atkinson or Konechny is traded?
Well, I think he makes the team next year unless he has a bad camp, kind of like Cam York did. Coming into this season, we all kind of penciled in Cam York on that third D pair, and he had a bad camp and they sent him down to Lehigh Valley. And I think a lot of us were surprised about that. We'll see what kind of moves they make in the off season, but I personally expect Foerster to make the opening night lineup, assuming he's healthy and assuming he doesn't have a bad camp. That being said, the second part of your question, does that make Konechny or Atkinson available in a trade. Well, I would trade Cam Atkinson tomorrow if I could. I don't think anybody would trade for him without seeing him play first and making sure that shoulder or whatever the heck it was. Now I'm even
Dude,
all the misdiagnosis got me all messed up. I can't even remember what it was at this point.
Dude, he actually said, I think at one point, that it was similar to what Farabee had. The only thing different was they had an artificial disc placed in. He used something from like his knee or his hip or something.
His hip. From his hip.
That's right.
Which I thought was interesting, because if that's the case, wouldn't he be the fourth player with this procedure, or is it because he went all natural?
He said it was different, but man, there were a lot of similarities.
Okay.
Like it wasn't quite the same, but it was close.
Okay.
And yeah, they used something off his hip instead of making it artificial. Is the only difference that I remember hearing from him. He said he's felt the best he's ever felt in his career. Never heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I would trade that guy tomorrow if I could. I don't think that's possible. As for Konechny, I mean, this is the most interesting one in my eyes, probably besides Carter Hart, because I mean, he's your best skater. In my eyes, he was probably team MVP, and that's nothing against Hart. I mean, he won us so many games at the beginning of the year, but we saw what the heck the lineup had going on when Konechny was hurt. They were averaging like a goal a game. They were nothing without Travis Konechny. So, like, what if they do really embrace this rebuild and it takes 6 years? How old's Konechny at that point? 32, 33? And then it's almost like, wow, we just wasted this entire guy's prime of his career, kind of like they did with G. Now, Konechny's not the same player Claude Giroux is. Claude Giroux's a legend, but Travis Konechny's a pretty dang good player, and he's your best player, and he has the most value on your team skater-wise. And for him to just kind of sit here and waste the prime of his career, that's kind of where I think Jim's favorite word, the timeline, comes in. Danny's got to look around and say, okay, well, if we keep Hart and we keep Konechny, our timeline, you would think, is going to be a little bit quicker than if we get rid of them. But what if you get a bunch of first-round picks and some highly touted prospects for them guys? Maybe that's the way to go to kind of revamp this rebuild. So I don't know. It's a really interesting question. I don't know what they do.
I think the only thing that can save Konechny at this point is if the Flyers get Bedard. But I did have a scout tell me that it won't save him. That they should still stick to the plan. So I'm not
the clown.
That's a good point. No,
clown.
I actually like what Trav said, because I'm kind of like right off the bat, like, you look, Konechny, Atkinson, Tippett, Forrester, Allison. Allison can easily, after the season he had, play on your fourth line and go from there. It's style of play, makes sense. Konechny's got to start on your top line. What do you do without Atkinson, rather? Like, yeah, I mean, I've seen him penciled in on the third line. Tippett's obviously going to play on your second, and then you got Forrester. Where are you going to put him? You're going to, as Torts always says, like, nobody's job is set. Like, you're always competing for your job. You're going to deny Forrester. He's going to, if he does not have a Cam York preseason, instead has a, oh God, what was that center that was terrible for us? No, he had a great preseason. He played two good games. It was horrible after that. Jim, remember, I could never say his name.
Sedlak this year?
No, not Sedlak. It was like Sedlak. It was a couple of years ago.
Filppula?
No, it was after Filppula, for God's sake. He was a young guy from Russia or something.
Vorobiev,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If Forrester has a Vorobiev type of preseason, you cannot deny him a roster spot. Like, he's got to play. And to Travis's point, yeah, okay, you look at it, let's trade Atkinson, move him, he's older. But what kind of return are you going to get for that? Are you almost asking for a team to do you a favor at that point? I don't think it's that bad, but the return will be pretty, weak. Where Konechny can get you a lot back, and you can accelerate that theoretical timeline, especially when you don't wind up with Bedard or one of these top four guys and wind up taking, I don't want to say shot in the dark, but you're still hoping for a lot more than what you get. It might make sense at that point. And this team kind of does need massive changes, and Konechny just had the best season of his career. So
He's got 2 years left, so if he doesn't want to be here, a lot of it comes down to him. He could just say, "I'm not resigning here," and then you have to trade him.
That's true too.
That's kind of the weird part we're at right now, because I would say no, there's no way in hell that I'm trading Travis Konechny, who I think, I don't know, I guess, do I think that this is the best that we're ever going to see Travis Konechny at, or do we think that he can improve between age 26 and 30? I think maybe that's when I have to maybe take a look in the mirror and say, okay, he's 26. This is his best season. How much better can he possibly get? Is it just that you want to see him here and score 35, 40 goals next season, whatever it is? Or, would it make more sense to trade a winger, for, a potential, top pick, or, a young prospect that can play maybe the center position, or maybe you go out and somehow find Ivan Provorov's replacement, yada, yada. Yeah, I don't know. That's something I still have to kick around a little bit. I'll tell you this, though. If Tyson Forster is legit, it makes trading Travis Konechny a lot easier, doesn't it?
Oh, you having Tippett and Forrester? Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? Like, yeah, and then get back a big return. I think that's what it's going to come down to is the offer, is the return. Is it worth it? I think they know what they want to do, but they have price points at everything. At least I would feel that way. Briere said to everybody, he's listening on everybody. Like, I think that's exactly how he's viewing this, and it's exactly how he should view it. Would I love to see Konechny a part of this team when they finally do make their real playoff push? Absolutely. But if that's not in the cards and you turn down a deal which could have really netted you a nice return and really accelerated this process, kept everybody in the same age group and core, then I would be pissed. So you have to do that. You have to view every trade you get. And this deadline, or I'm sorry, this draft is going to be very interesting. He's got a lot of moving parts. I mean, Hayes is obviously one. Provorov is probably two. I don't know what other veterans you can think of, but I would say that like dark horse, but you never know, kind of Hail Mary trade with Konechny is three. And this goes to what Briere said about being aggressive in the draft and potentially moving up. Now, a lot of us shot down immediately, not moving up from 7. How do you move up from 7? But a trade like this could theoretically get you back in the first round. And that's very interesting. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of GM Briere really is. So I guess we're going to find out.
So I will kind of save this maybe for the next episode. But I was trying to kick around a trade scenario, because I think it's dead set, pretty much in stone, that Hayes is going to Columbus. And I was trying to figure out what a return looks like for Hayes, and it's been said the Flyers were looking for reclamation projects around the trade deadline. And if they're going through this rebuild, why not look for reclamation projects still, because it looks like they have the staff that can kind of help these players. I'm looking at Tippett, Frost. So I'm like, okay, well, they have, man, why do I want to call him his dad's name? What's Sillinger's first name?
Cole
Sillinger. He's a guy that's in his second NHL season, didn't have a great year. Maybe he's a guy that comes back.
I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Me too. I really liked him in that draft year.
And then they have a guy like Boone Jenner, who's basically their Scott Lawton over there, maybe matches up cap. But then I'm wondering, if the Blue Jackets don't get the first overall pick, and they're trading for Kevin Hayes, do they trade back with the Flyers if Travis Konechny is involved in the deal? Maybe they go get their winger and they're still able to draft a center late in the draft. Because I think right around where the Flyers pick, there's going to be some centers, Will Smith. Maybe the Flyers say, okay, Adam Fantilli is our guy sitting there at 2. Columbus has 2. And I'm just kicking stuff around. It's all.
I'm just gonna say this: if Briere pulled something like that off, like it was one of his first moves as Flyers GM, he would immediately be the greatest GM. And I don't even think it's that crazy of a thought. I agree with everything you're saying. If Columbus is going that direction, that makes a lot of sense. But to get a player like Fantilli, like to I don't know where Columbus is going to fall. I'm just saying, like, to pull that off would be this town, you thought the Hextall juice was crazy? Like, oh my God, these people would be getting baptized.
So all I'm doing is trying to connect some dots and,
And I agree
playing
with you.
guessing games. So Kick a Line and Jack came out and said that they want to win games. I don't think that they won too many seasons like they did this year. I mean, they have Gaudreau. So they signed Gaudreau. Their rebuild timeline, it needs to be sped up.
Did you just say timeline?
Yeah, I did.
You're also talking about Columbus, who's constantly in rebuild.
Right. So, if it would speed things up considerably, trading for 2 veterans, they still have Cole Sillinger coming up in the pipeline, and they're still able to get a guy like, I don't know, depending where the Flyers draft, let's say they're drafting at 7, there are a couple centers there for them still to draft if they so choose. If that's the case, that they want center, if they pass up on Fantilli, I would assume that it's like, okay, well, we're getting Konechny, we're getting Hayes. They're probably they're getting the 7th round pick as well, right? They're giving up the 2nd. We can still get a center later in the draft to give them Fantilli, and yada yada. And yeah, that would be Briere's rock star, cement on the roster move.
That is, on the table move right there.
Right. So I mean, what better way to get into the offseason to be like, boom, I'm fucking here. God. Instead of just kind of whimpering into it, like, yes, we're going through a rebuild. We have to be patient, yada, yada. Instead, it's like, no, bitch, Flyers hockey's back. We're trading up into the top 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for angry Jim, you're an awfully positive fella. So I would cry. I might break down and cry. I mean, they finally figured it out. Like I would lose it. That would be the greatest move they've made since like I guess the Recchi deal. God, I can't think of another deal that they just acquired so much talent. I get what you're saying about Columbus. I don't think they quite gets that crazy, but there are certain low market teams that when they start to spend money, they have to go all in or pull the plug because they can't afford to let that play out. Sure. So adding talent, expensive talent at that, it wouldn't be all that crazy for them to consider a scenario in that realm. I won't say that exact one. I won't go there, but I'm just saying in that realm, I understand the just do it mentality.
Yeah, I'm thinking Columbus as well, but I'm thinking Flyers eat money and they get a 2nd round pick in return. I don't think 2nd overall, maybe 2nd round.
Jim takes off his Phillies hat and just
I was searching around today trying to figure out like who's available in free agency and all this stuff, and I saw Zegras is a RFA. I mean, let me start off by saying this is not happening, but that'd be a hell of a first move too.
With Zegras.
Right. That'd be a hell of a first move by Danny B, though, to go and RFA offer sheet Zegras 13 mil, 8 years, something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if they have Bedard, they don't need Zegras anymore.
How crazy would it be, though, going back to Columbus, if they have Kevin Hayes, Johnny Gaudreau, and Connor Bedard? That's like...
I'd be pissed, honestly.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd actually
kind of what we all wanted here.
Yeah, because it just... No, I don't even really want to think about it because, it's like... I'll just say...
Fletcher was bad at his job.
I mean, there are people out there that'll say, it was the wrong time, yada yada. It's the same people saying that the Flyers' problem with the roster is no high-end talent. Well, they had a chance to get it. You're saying they didn't need it. The time wasn't right. So, I don't want to hear that the problem with the roster is high-end talent from these people.
Yeah,
it's not even that. It's not even that. Like, this is what the effing team told us. They told us this. This was their words. Then they got D'Angelo. Yeah. Then it was only made sense that they were going to get Gaudreau. It wasn't something we dreamt up because he's from here. It was exactly what they told us, what came out of Fletcher's mouth, what Dave Scott looked at Fletcher and said, we can add a piece or two, maybe more. What do you think that means? Not just going to D'Angelo and Delorier, who I really like Delorier, by the way. His interviews was one of my favorites. Just saying. But that's what we were all led to believe. It didn't come out of left field for them to add Johnny Hockey. Every literal star aligned, and they just said, you know what, let's go this way for no effing reason.
So yeah, if they do get Bedard, I will be pissed because it still could have happened for us.
Kind of going back on the Jim's last point. I mean, that whole thing you just said, it kind of reminds me of some wannabe hockey reporter who's making up stuff about maybe the Flyers aren't ready for Bedard.
The same one that gets his that's asking scouts, yada yada.
Yeah.
How
scouts.
weird was that? So I'm not going to shit talk anybody.
But
I will.
But like, even if that did happen, why put that on Twitter? Like, you have to know that it sounds dumb. Maybe you did have that conversation. Why does it have to go on Twitter? I felt bad at one point.
slow news day.
Felt bad.
He's getting absolutely roasted.
As he deserved.
It was a slow news day, and some people believe that there is no such thing as bad publicity.
Just needed a couple retweets. Made him feel good
Fire
about himself.
season's done. Can't talk about nothing. Needed something. Went with a lonely scout, allegedly.
All credibility is just gone.
Dust Bunny sitting in the corner.
Sucks. I mean, you hate to. I hate to. I hope the best for people, but like when you see that, it's like, man, you might deserve that a little bit, you know? Like, so it sucks.
Oh, it's rough.
All right, boys. So before we move on to our playoff predictions, I want to ask you guys, was there anything, because we didn't really talk about the Torts and Briere press conferences. Jack, I'll ask you first. Was there anything from these exit interviews, be it the players or coaches, that you wanted to bring up on the show?
The only thing I'll add is I just loved everything Torts had to say. I really enjoy when he does get into a good back and forth with the media, and it's not just, sarcasm and that was a stupid question and, you get out of here bullshit. Like when they actually have a good back and forth, he's actually very good to listen to. And thanks to you, I was able to read it and actually get everything that was asked and said. And I just love the way that he and Danny, for that matter, view this team, have talked with each other. It really seems to me the GM and the coach are on the same page. You talk about what happened when he went, up in the sky to watch the team. He even said that he and Danny, that was one of his favorite games because he and Danny had a very good conversation where he stood on players. He didn't hold back. Typically D'Angelo, they obviously butted heads. I think he kind of could have put a little bit of a kibosh on your theory, Jim, unfortunately, when he kind of alluded to he's like, yeah, it seems like you and Tony bumped heads. He's like, we did. And he proceeded to ask what happened. He's like, that's between me and him. There's things we're going to go over. We're not going to put out in the media, but also kind of said, like, when you don't hold yourself accountable, you say you want to be accountable and you tell people you want to be accountable. When you're actually held accountable, you're resistant. And he was that's kind of what he said. It's like, there's players like that. I think that's exactly who he was talking about. The question also came directly after the Tony D'Angelo one as well. So I think it was very telling, but I think he's exactly what we need for this team. When asked, where do you feel the team was when you first came in here with culture and accountability? Of course, he said he doesn't like culture, but there's a standard to be set. And I believe that this team was never felt they were out of a game. There were significantly less blowouts. And I think we can all agree that didn't happen this year. They competed. They may not have been the most talented team, but they competed. They were never out of the game. And I think that's exactly what you want to see from Tortorella. And I think he has a basic understanding of the players that will be coming back and have a future with his team and those who do not. He's on the same page as the GM, and it's exactly everything I wanted to hear from the guy, just reiterating why he was the perfect coach for the job. Perfect in the sense that we did everything right except get Bedard, which is still up to chance. So there's still a chance for the perfect offseason. But yeah, Tortorella definitely left me feeling exactly why I knew he was, well, in my opinion, he was the best hire for where this team needed to go.
So you got to love that, actually, because if you give an answer like that, if you talk about someone like that, that means you're convinced. Because I think of the three of us, you're most reluctant to say, yeah, this is legit, or to give out credit right away. And for you to talk about Tortorella like that is like, all right, Jack's sold. I like that. It gets me a little bit like, all right, they got the coach. Let's go here, right? Trev, anything that stuck out for you that you want to bring up before we move on to our next topic?
Yeah, the D'Angelo stuff, and he was very open about kind of everything. He says he wants to be here. He said he took accountability, saying, "Look, I sucked in the D zone this year, and a lot of that was I wasn't putting up the points that I'm used to, and I was kind of pushing for offense." Like, he was very honest, and he talked about how he wanted to play with Provorov more and how he thought they played well together, and the coaches just didn't use them together. So I thought that whole interview was really interesting. He gave really good insight, and he doesn't hold back, which I enjoy.
Let me just add real quick, Jim, obviously what Travis said was exactly how D'Angelo laid it out. If with everything you had been hearing about him, the team working with him and all that, if there's a chance for him to work, and I'm not saying I don't really care if he goes past this year, but there's a chance for it to work, and then you see where you're at with him and Tortorella. Maybe he finally got through. Maybe there's something to that. Doesn't quite seem that way, but for Tony D'Angelo to be honest the way he was, makes me think there's at least a chance. There's at least a chance. If he can be honest with the media, there's no reason he can't be honest with Tortorella, which means there could be something there. Could just get you a good return at the trade deadline. Either way, it's not a bad thing.
So this is interesting because the more we're talking about this, the more I'm kind of remembering other parts, and I'm like, oh, now that's interesting. So there was a part where Tortorella had given a response in regards to, players leaving or staying. And he said, he might like a guy, and want to keep him, but it might be the player that wants to go. Or
Ivan.
Yeah. So, yeah, of course, Ivan Provorov is my first thought there. If they're just talking about D'Angelo a little bit here, I think Torts loves D'Angelo. I think they have similar personalities, right? They both have fiery, passionate personalities, that Italian blood. So I think Torts knows which buttons to press on D'Angelo, and I think he's probably been pressing them all year. And if D'Angelo's anything like we've seen over the years, maybe they had a falling out towards the end of the year. Like, yo, you've been riding me all year. I can't do anything right, yada, yada. On the flip side of that, Torts, I feel like until the end of the year, never had really anything totally negative to say about D'Angelo. He's given him praise through the media, specifically D'Angelo, where, really, he didn't really single guys out. So I just wonder if D'Angelo is one of those guys who maybe doesn't want to be here, but no player is going to say, yeah, get me the hell out of here. I'm just wondering.
Well, one thing to add to that is Tortorella had said he likes it when a player openly in front of the team challenges him, comes back at him. Everybody's vulnerable, and a coach has to be ready for something like that. And Tony D'Angelo is a guy who strikes me as I've had enough, and you're going to hear a piece of my mind, obviously. He's the first one that comes to mind. And I think, I don't know, maybe it's that Paisan blood. I don't know, but there's something there. You can't be that way, like Tortorella be that way and D'Angelo be that way, and not be some kind of mutual respect there. At the end of the day, it comes down to results, and that might be what separates him from this team. Yeah. But maybe there's still something there. Until he's gone, there's something there.
Yep, for sure. Good stuff, boys. All right, so let's move on a little bit. We spent a lot of time on the exit interviews. That was really, really good stuff. All right, so the Stanley Cup playoffs are underway once again. They started last night, 2 games, and of course they were the late games. Went to overtime. One went to 2 overtimes. I stayed up till 2 a.m. and watched the entire thing, and I regret it bigly because I'm dead today. Playoffs have started, and we have our predictions. Let me just bring those back up real quick here. Should have had them ready. All right. So let's go through real quick. We'll make this snappy. First round in the Eastern Conference, we have Bruins, Panthers, Leafs, Lightning, Canes, Islanders, Devils, Rangers. So before we get to our predictions, I want to ask Jack, in the Eastern Conference, which series are you looking forward to watching most?
To be honest with you, it was the Devils and Rangers. Then the Rangers beat the Devils 5-1 tonight. So I'm like, well, I just thought the Devils had in a way arrived. Like they almost passed Carolina.
Yeah.
You know, and I would love to see the Rangers fall off. That stupid team that has like lapped us in rebuilds like 6 times. They're always with great goaltending. And it's just like I would love to see them get knocked back a step. And they also missed out on Jack Hughes. So I would love to see him make them pay. And I don't see the Devils going past that, but I see the Devils being, as the future goes on, a pretty damn good team, which does suck. But when I look at our division, you know, there could be a lot worse teams in there. Yeah. And I really thought they could really, you know, knock back the Rangers and show what they got. And it's still early. But the last time these two guys played that I can remember was the infamous I think the Rangers beat him when – what was the name of the guy? Oh, God. He took his 2 gloves and his stick and put it right in Brodor's face.
Sean Avery.
Sean Avery, thank you. And, like, I'll never forget that. Wouldn't shake his hand in the handshake line. Like, it was a memorable series for me. You know, I think Lundqvist was, like, in his 20s. Like, it was crazy.
See, that's hockey right there, man. Just – dudes being dudes. Sean Avery is an asshole. Nobody likes him. Like Marty Brodor's, you know, one of the best goalies in the league, doing whatever you can to throw him off. Like, you're right, Jack. This could be the most anticipated first round series in the Devils and Rangers. Trav, you have a different one in mind, or are you going with the same one?
Nah, well, I would have liked to watch, but you know, you wanted to record tonight. I'm kidding. Maple Leafs against the Lightning. I mean, is this finally the year they get out of the first round? Is this the year we see the Lightning take a step back?
Nope.
It looks like it was 7-3.
Oh my God,
Tampa. It was 3-0 after 1. Leafs make it 3-2 pretty early in the second, and Braden Point makes it 4-2 in like less than a minute. And it appears that the Lightning kind of went off after that. But that's the one I really want to see. Also, Carolina. One of my favorite players, Shane Gostisbehere's over there, hoping he does well. I was able to watch last night. So that's kind of the 2 teams I'm rooting for.
The one thing I will say about this is I have a lot of these games. This is the most I've ever done, going to Game 7. Like this, you know, the whole first round. And the 2 matchups we just talked about in the East are the 2 I have going to Game 7. You know, I mean, it doesn't look good. My winners are not looking good, but there's still plenty of series left. I have the Maple Leafs finally moving past Tampa, really. It's not even the first round anymore. It's just Tampa. And I have that in 7 because it ain't going to be easy. And you saw by tonight, they're going to do it. It ain't going to be easy. And same with New Jersey. I thought if they're going to knock off a team like the Rangers, it ain't going to be easy. And as much as I dislike the playoff structure, the first round usually does wind up being pretty good.
I love the first round. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed that after the first round, I somewhat lose interest in the playoffs a little bit, just because the matchups.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. It feels
like Jim, Toronto and Tampa, like especially like last year, the year before. That's like an Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Yeah. But like in a year, it's because of the playoff structure. It's a first round matchup. That's where I get aggravated. You know, that's where it's a little annoying.
It just feels like chaos to me. Like there's 16 teams. You know, it's just hockey on every single night. There's 4 games a night. You know, there's hockey
all going overtime.
Right, from 7 to 10:30, and you might be up till 2-3 in the morning. Like, I love it. And then once you get to the second round, the games kind of slow down a little bit, and it's usually the same teams playing each other. It's going to be the Bruins and the Lightning and the Canes and the Rangers, or you know what I mean? I don't know. It just loses a little bit of its luster for me. Like the first round is, in my opinion, the most fun round. It's just chaos. It's just my opinion.
I don't disagree. I mean, they had a great first round the last couple of years. It's the rest of the playoffs that I'm a little, don't get me wrong. There's still been for some very good matchups, but some of these first round matchups I feel like should be definitely later in the playoffs when it's even more important.
Yeah. like the first round is the round that you're going to see the Blue Jackets upset the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're not going to see that in the conference finals. Usually the better team will prevail as the playoffs go on.
Well, it goes back to my youth. And it's like, I remember that, the Flyers would play Buffalo and Toronto in these rounds and Ottawa, and the Devils would play somebody else, and the Flyers and Devils would meet in the Eastern Conference final, like the division rivals. And, those are what we remember, regardless of the outcome. We remember the big plays and the comebacks and all that, and the saves and the hits. And, that's what I feel like it will always kind of lack from these playoffs. As crazy good as the first round can be, that's the kind of stuff that, unfortunately, you got to get really lucky for that stuff to fall into place now.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. All right, so let's get to series picks. We'll kind of blow by these real quick. This way we can get to the Western Conference. All right, first round series in the Eastern Conference. We have Panthers, Bruins. It looks like all three of us picked the Bruins to win that series. Panthers gave them a fight last night. However, Alex Lyon, it would have been really, really brave, I guess, to pick the Panthers in that series. I mean, the Bruins are the best regular season team of all time. President's Trophy winning. There's no weak spot. Great trade deadline moves. We all picked the Bruins. I think we're going to be right there. We all picked the Carolina Hurricanes in the Hurricanes Islanders series, which I watched that game, guys, and snooze fest, in my opinion. It's going to be one of those series, I think. Low scoring, kind of, a little boring. And whoever can outlast the other one maybe takes that series. But
sounds like you're kind of hockey.
Well, it kind of is. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Don't get me wrong, because I like watching the McDavids, and obviously the Leafs and the Lightning is going to be a firecracker of a series, Devils Rangers. But you know what I really actually enjoyed watching last night was the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every game in that series has potential to go to overtime. Like, they're evenly matched teams, heavy teams, playoff built teams. It was just kind of fun for me to watch that. But we all have the Canes over the Islanders because fuck New York. And then this is where it gets a little interesting, because I think even on the Western Conference side, we may have picked all the same teams. And that's going to be interesting because we have a little bit to talk about on the Western Conference side, boys. Not looking as good over there. So, okay, Leafs, Lightning. It looks like Jack and Trav, you guys both think the Leafs are going to advance. And here's my question to you guys. Is that more you hope that they advance, or is that you think they're legitimately better than the Lightning this year?
I don't think the Lightning are good this year. I think this is the time that the Maple Leafs get past them. And I think all it takes is for the Leafs is to get past one round. You bury that whole narrative and that thing's behind you, and then you can go on a roll.
I totally agree with Travis. And a lot of it is hope with me, but as an owner of Vasilevsky in fantasy hockey, that team has taken a significant step down. Mm-hmm. We saw it. You win that many cups, you got to overpay guys. They couldn't do that, obviously, because of the cap. They had to move on from guys that lost an entire line, among others. I mean, they've done pretty good to stay where they are. I think that's why I have this going 7. I still think there's something to that logo to Toronto that they have to get past, and it may take the whole series to do it. So Toronto in 7, this is the year they get by it. And I have Toronto knocking off Boston too. It's just a spoiler alert, but it probably won't happen, but I put it in anyway.
Yeah. So I went Lightning, guys, and I was tempted to go Toronto.
Ooh.
But I just don't want Toronto to advance. I kind of take.
He doesn't like skilled hockey.
I take pleasure in their misery.
It doesn't bother me. They just don't bother me like they do other people, unfortunately.
So I like watching them. Like, they're a fun team. Obviously, I mean, they have star talent, but it's just something about them not making it out of the first round again just kind of makes me laugh. I have enjoyment out of seeing that. And Tampa Bay, like, so here's something that I consider in each series. Which team has the goalie, right? Because Tampa Bay has Vasilevsky. Obviously, you mentioned Jack. Toronto doesn't have a legitimate number one goalie, in my opinion. Like, they just don't. Like, Samsonov is not a legit number one goalie to me. Matt Murray, not a legit number one goalie. You can get by with those guys in the regular season, right? But in a 7-game series, especially against a back-to-back Cup winning team like Tampa Bay, Vezina winning goalie and Vasilevsky, you got Kucherov, Stamkos, yada, yada. I think, the lack of goaltending is where, it's going to show up against a team like Tampa Bay. I don't want to say that I'm right because it's going to be a long series, but Tampa Bay puts up a touchdown and an extra point in game 1. So, we'll see. That's why I went Tampa Bay, though, because of Vasilevsky. I had my pencil on Toronto, and then I was like, last minute.
Jim said it's going to be a close series, some 2-1 wins. I'm going with Vasilevsky, 7-3. I'm sorry, 8-3.
Yeah, I mean, if this episode showed us anything, Jim's always wrong.
Got the right team, but the wrong reason. Yeah. Some call that luck, but I call that, luck. So what?
What about the question in the chat? We got an upset here?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, let me read that. I put that on the screen there. So, Jacob Day, thoughts on the Panthers upsetting the Bruins? Go ahead, Trav. You think there's a legitimate shot they can?
I think I think the Panthers are trash. I think I said Bruins in 5. I think just Matthew Tkachuk is just going to go crazy one game and win a game by himself. I think he has that kind of ability with Barkov, but that's all I really see happening. We have a former Flyer in net, Alex Lyon. Kind of talked about him before. Not too high on him. I think the hot streak ends here.
Yeah. And here's a thought. If you're the coach of the Florida Panthers, who's I think Paul Maurice, and you have a $10 million goalie sitting on your bench because, Alex Lyon, who's a starting AHL goalie, is on a hot streak. At some point, he's got to put in Bobrovsky, right? I mean, come on. That's a really, really tough look if you go out. I mean, I know it's the Bruins, so you kind of have a get-out-of-jail-free card there, losing to the best team arguably to ever to play in the NHL. But you're starting your AHL goalie against them in the first round of the playoffs, and you have a $10 million goalie sitting on the bench. To me, it just looks silly, to be honest with you.
I'm actually in favor for it. I say ride the hot streak as long as you can. You kind of get some leeway because Bob was hurt. It's not like he was playing decent and Alex Lyon was just playing a little bit better. He was hurt until that last couple of games of the season, so I think they kind of have that leeway with it. I mean, maybe Alex Lyon channels his inner Michael Leighton and could carry him for a little bit, but I don't know. I don't see it happening.
No way.
No.
But I do agree that if Lyon gets lit up or maybe you go down 3-0 in the series, you got to put in Bob. But you got to remember, Bob's been terrible in his playoff career. That's like the one slight he has against him.
Yeah, he's not good. Signed in Florida for $10 million, though. You got to play the $10 million guy. I don't care. It looks really bad. Okay. So let me just flash up our predictions here real quick for the people watching. There you go. Okay, so we did Bruins, we did Leafs, we did Canes. All right, so now we're on Devils Rangers, which, as Jack said, could be the premier matchup in the Eastern Conference. We'll start with Travis on this one. Trav, you were with me on this. You picked the Rangers. Why'd you pick the Rangers?
I'm usually not a fan of this narrative, but in this case, I do really think it applies. I think the discrepancy in playoff, not history, playoff experience is really going to show in this series. And I think kind of like you talked about with the goaltending matchup in Toronto and Tampa Bay, I think it's really, really, really key here in the Rangers and the Devils. So I picked Rangers in 5. Pretty confident in that one.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I like the Devils better than I like the Rangers. I think they're a more fun team.
Wow.
I honestly hope the Rangers lose, even though I picked them. I hate the Rangers. I hate their guts. I hate them. But I just, when I look at New Jersey, this is their first real taste, I think, of playoff action in however long. Can Jack Hughes do it when it counts? He had an amazing regular season, breakout year, 99 points. I think he scored 40 goals, yada, yada. I mean, they have a great team, New Jersey. I think New York is more built for this. They're more battle tested. They have the goalie. Jack, why did you pick New Jersey?
For me, it was their regular season. Everything just seemed to click for this team. Outside of starting a little slow, they started to put it together. They started beating everybody. They were beating everybody they were playing. They looked good. They had a lot of good storylines coming out of there. Luke Hughes first, he plays with the team, first goals and overtime goal, assisted from his brother and whatnot. Like,
that's cool.
Like holy cow! Like it just felt like, I felt they could propel themselves at least past one round. I didn't think they had enough juice to keep it going. It wasn't a Cinderella story or anything like that, but the team was just finally on such a big upswing. I felt they could at least, it's not just win a round, but knock off a very good team, division rival team that could have easily been in the cup last year. But ultimately, when you spoke about Toronto and Tampa, how much of that was hope? There was a lot of hope there. I'm not going to lie to you. There was some hope there. Which more teams most likely to lose in the next round and probably the Devils. And it's funny. Travis mentioned both things. The two things that I knew would be the biggest arguments against that, and I have no argument for that, is goaltending and playoff experience. And it's just like, how do you beat that? Well, the only way to beat that is to make the playoffs and win. So I'm just going to roll with that, So yeah, that's why I have it in 7. It never said it was going to be easy. I'm hoping they can at least make it a series. It's only been one game. It is also, when I look at all the Eastern Conference matchups, you have what should be a blowout in Boston and Florida. You have another Tampa. Can Toronto finally get past Tampa in the first round? And then you have a defensive struggle with Carolina and the Islanders. So I come to New Jersey and New York, and I'm just like, well, this should be the best series based on narrative.
I would agree. I hope every series goes 7 games, honestly. It's just the most fun. I want every series to go 7 and every game to go to overtime. That's fun.
Who doesn't?
Yep.
All right, boys, let's get to the Western Conference. Boom. There's our predictions. We got Avs.
Wow, a lot to talk about here.
Yeah. Avs Seattle, which Seattle's out to an early 1-0 lead there in game 1, which is interesting. Hackstall.
Fucking Hackstall. Like, unbelievable. Give me a break.
Yep. So looking at these 4 series here, I think we asked Jack first on the Eastern side. Trav, which series to you is going to be the most exciting to watch?
God, kind of like you said earlier, the Stars and Wild was really entertaining last night. Good physical hockey, old school. I think the Avalanche Kraken might be the complete opposite, just all speed and skill. The Oilers kind of might be somewhere in the middle. Like the way the Kings check and defend and how good and easy and simple they make it look is so beautiful. And going against the two best players in the league in Draisaitl and McDavid, that's going to be a really good challenge to watch. Vegas and Winnipeg, I mean, I'll be watching it, but not really too worried about them. So, yeah.
Jack, which series are you most looking forward to watching?
I think that Dallas and Minnesota will probably be the most entertaining, but me personally, Edmonton and the Kings, a lot for what Travis just said. There was something Tortorella had mentioned about what he teaches and what he sees. He was asked a question about how the team played defensively, how they were going to take a penalty kill and look at things of that nature. And I thought he was going to say, oh, we improved. And instead he said something like, we have a long way to go. And I was kind of glad he said that, even though I didn't expect it. And it's a lot of little things that he mentioned, like just shutting down plays before they happen, recognizing this, recognizing that, being proactive. Everything he said showed me that a team like Columbus could knock off Tampa. If you're going to do it, that's how you're going to do it. And I feel like the Kings play that way, even though the discrepancy between the two teams isn't as massive. They're obviously a lot closer, and they played before, and it was a good series. But I feel like the Kings, they do those things that like really irk Edmonton and the way they play, especially how much skill they bring to the table. And I have Edmonton in 7. I feel like it's going to be a close series. I feel like it's going to be a good series. The one that shocked me the most, I thought both of you guys were going to take Minnesota. I felt like that was everybody's like favorite to upset the favorite upset. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I thought, a lot of, even though don't think it's as close. I saw a lot of people taking Minnesota, so I'm surprised we're all in agreement there. That looks like it's going to be a hell of a series after the dump a hit on Pavelski. The other two series, I don't care a lot for. I'm a little surprised that the Kraken have a lead right now. I have Colorado in 6, so I give the Kraken a little bit of credit. Other than that, I have Vegas in 5 over Winnipeg. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. That series is so whatever to me. I'm not a big fan of either team. I expect Colorado to win, though. I will say that. I feel like this is a little hiccup, we'll just say hiccup. But okay. The West doesn't seem as wild to me as some of the Eastern matchups in perception. As far as the games go, yeah, gloves are off.
No, because there's not really any history of rivalries within these matchups aside from maybe the Oilers and Kings, who I think you said played last year, right, Trav?
Yeah.
So I mean that series I think is going to be a good one. There's maybe some bad blood there. I can't recall, but I think McDavid put a hit on somebody from LA during the year, and Drew Doughty came out and said something like, "If we have the opportunity to hit him, we're going to smack him." And so there's some bad blood between those two teams, and maybe it's manufactured a little bit. I don't know. I didn't see him say it. I just read the quote. But that series I think could get a little ugly. And it was, I'll tell you what, I had that game. I had a 5-game parlay last night, right, boys? And it was looking pretty good. Picked the Sixers. I picked the Hurricanes. I picked the Bruins. To me, those 3 games were locks, right? And I'm looking at the late games. I'm like, Stars should win that. They're at home. They got Ottinger. That's a win. That's one that I was kind of on the fence about, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to watch that game till the end. I didn't think there was any way the Oilers were going to lose last night, the way that they finished the season. I think they finished the year 19-1-2 or something like that. Ever since they traded for Matthias Ekholm from Nashville, they were on a complete and utter tear. Evan Bouchard looks amazing on that power play. Once they went up 2-0, and I think they went back up 3-1. I was like, all right, good night. I'll watch the Dallas Minnesota game. Easy $500, $15 bet, $500 if you win that 5-game parlay. As I'm watching one game, the Kings came back down 3-0. Was it in the third? And they won 4-3 in overtime. That's going to be a series. I kind of was under the impression that Edmonton maybe could make quick work of the Kings this year. And, was I mistaken yet again? Go ahead, Trav, say it.
You're an idiot.
But yeah, I mean, we all have the same picks here, which I feel pretty good about, because if I'm wrong, that means we're all wrong.
I don't think it's crazy to say that. Like, I look at these teams, there's some good teams in the West, but yeah, I don't know. I could see either of these teams going to the Cup. Like, I just, based on the matchups, if Colorado's going to, be stupid and, it's only one game, but if they're going to be stupid, I can see Edmonton making it to the Cup. And if the Kings get by Edmonton, I think that it'll be a lot tougher, and I don't think they win, but I could see this series propelling a team pretty far.
I agree with you, but I was actually kind of surprised how many people are taking the Oilers to win.
I mean, I think that point kind of gives it to you. Like, I may have taken the Oilers, but I respect the shit out of the Kings.
I mean to win the Cup. I'm seeing a lot of people think the Oilers could win the Cup. And the more I think about it, I can see it. But when I first saw it, I was like, wow, really?
They're my pick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I don't like Winnipeg and the Knights. I had Edmonton winning a close series against the Kings, but taking care of business against Vegas. And then, I think they could win another close series against whoever comes out of the remaining teams. And, from there, it's who comes out of the East, obviously. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm not saying it's going to happen. I just don't think it's that crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff, guys. So really, out of 8 first round series, we only, not that we disagreed, but we picked we picked the same in 6 out of the 8 series. The only 2 series that we didn't pick the same were Toronto, Tampa, and New Jersey, New York. And those are 2 of the series that are toss-up series. Those are going to be some fun series. I'll be watching them.
I think we picked where we disagree with some of the better series for sure. I know they were.
Yeah, absolutely. Typically, I take more enjoyment watching the West playoffs because they're on later at night, and the teams I think are more evenly matched most of the time. But this year, I think the East. I think the Beasts are in the East this year. And I'm talking about, Toronto, the Boston Bruins, Rangers, Devils, yada, yada, the Hurricanes. I mean, damn, I just almost named every team in that first round. all very good teams. So it's going to be a fun playoffs. That pretty much wraps up our first round predictions there. We're about an hour and 45 in. Did you want to take a couple minutes and defend Claude Giroux, Trav? I'll just give the floor to you. I won't say anything. If you wanted to punish us for last week,
to be completely honest, I kind of said that in the group chat the other day, just kind of as a joke, because I think he tweeted something about him earlier in the day. I don't even remember what the quote was, but he was disappointed with how the Ottawa season went, and he wishes they were playing in the playoffs. That's what it was. And you said, I don't even remember what you said. I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
You think Claude Giroux doesn't care about playing in the playoffs? What a joke.
Sure he does.
I don't know. We talked about it a lot last week for the short time I did hop on the show.
He had his opportunity to play wherever he wanted, and he chose to play up in cold, miserable Ottawa.
But I think it was fair to think that the Senators could make a run this year. Maybe not like a Stanley Cup run, but make some noise, get into the playoffs, win a round or 2.
Yeah, I guess he didn't have enough of that in Philly, or the potential of a roster, yada yada.
Was that his fault?
No,
you sure?
It wasn't.
You sure? You want to say it? Say it. I know you want to say it. Blame him.
It wasn't his fault. So Claude Giroux is an outstanding player. I won't deny that. He's very, very good. Just his time here was just wasted. It wasn't his fault. There's maybe some things that I need to figure out that I'm not over yet. So, we can get to that on the next episode here before all of our computers die. It is getting a little bit late, almost 2-hour show. Any final thoughts, boys, before we wrap this one up?
Think we're good. Roll Leafs, roll Canes.
Yep, Lightning going to win.
Yeah.
All right. So, by this time next week, we should have a pretty good idea of who's going to come out of the first round. Looking forward to it. Everybody enjoy the playoffs. Where's my line, guys? Give me my line here. Oh, yeah. Next time you catch us live, it'll probably be on next Monday, Tuesday. We'll see. We'll have it figured out. We'll announce it on social media. Make sure you're taking your vitamins. Enjoy the playoffs. Everybody have a good night, and let's go Flyers.
Cal Pickard.
Ooh.
Jeff Hackett.
Whoa, good ones.